The NSA just called me. We have a problem in East Timor.
What kind of problem?
A big one.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Pandora Tomorrow hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is mission 2. It is Saulnier Cryogenics Lab in Paris, France. So at the beginning of this, Sam is infiltrating into a subway system, and this is one of those sequences that I really remember from when I was younger, but I have absolutely no idea why. For some reason I remember this being kind of tricky, this first sequence, when in fact it's anything but. The cool thing is, there are some tricky rooms in this in Paris, but none of them are going to challenge you the way, excuse me, that some of the earlier levels did on the first game. I think that the first game really piled it on heavy earlier on, and then later on there were a couple of really nightmarish points, but you could get through them because you kind of learnt the rhythm of the game. You kind of, learn to move to the drum beat. With this game, because you're coming in with a wealth of experience, hopefully, you've already kind of got an idea of what you're doing, so these early parts that have been tempered for the newer player are not going to really challenge you. But the first thing you'll notice is in the bottom right you see 0 for 3 and then a volume sign, which a lot of kids nowadays will associate with party chat and things of that nature. Well, that is alarms in this game, and that means we can have 3 alarms before we will meet a fail state. That is right, folks. The game will end if we get 3 alarms. The good news is, if you follow this, you'll get no alarms. I think there's a trophy for not getting any alarms, but I could be wrong. All I know is that I definitely do it, because the alarms that do get set off are pre-programmed, and they do not void the achievement. So, walk up this train car, sit down here, and wait for these 2 guys to finish their discussion. I was going to trim parts like this out, but sometimes it's worthwhile leaving them in just to show you the rhythm of it. Once he walks past you, you can then mantle up, or you can proceed onwards, and then we can carry on. The problem there, I don't know if you spotted it, Sam stands up. He automatically defaults to standing, and believe it or not, if you're too eager and you don't know he does that, you can run by accident, and running makes noise and you'll be in some serious trouble. But just take it slow, know that it'll happen, and act accordingly. Then shoot out the sprinklers, cool the fire, do a little circle dance if you want to, and then you can push forward. But there's something about these games that I just adore, and I couldn't tell you why. They're not the most polished, they're not the most interesting. You've done a lot of these situations in the first game, so a lot of this is just recycled ideas with different places, and I, for one, give games nowadays a lot of shit for doing this every 12 months, a la Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, and insert, randomly mass-produced, proliferated bullshit. But in these titles, I just adore it, and I don't know why. It's that strange thing of, I think if you do something well and you can keep it interesting like these games do for me, then you have a product that everybody can keep buying. And all I can think is that that's exactly what Call of Duty and what Assassin's Creed is for other people, but unfortunately for me, I don't have the patience for it anymore. So this is a really interesting technique I'm showing you. That guy right there went to turn the light back on. I've hid in this corner, and I know now that they're going to have a certain path that allows me to walk past the blinds, stay in shadow, and get past that room. Somebody just spoke, but we're already on our way out, so we're okay. But that's the kind of stuff I love about this game. That looks like it shouldn't have worked. That looked like it was too insane to work, but it did. And that's the kind of stuff that I love finding. And you speak to anybody who's played these games, they have that moment somewhere in this game. A certain section that they stumbled upon, absolutely terrified, didn't mean to be in it, but just kind of rolled with it and it worked. And it's that beautiful, that like serendipitous discovery of something great. And it happens all the time in games, but in Splinter Cells I find it happens more than most. And if only I could find the cocktail of ingredients to make that something I could control, because I would try and do it in every sequence, and then every video that I put out, every part of it would have some awesome moment, some just, resplendent, rejoiceful section of just pure majesty in gaming form. This is another interesting one. If you stay on that corner, the people trying to ambush you are going to fan out into that room, and you can sneak past them without even having an engagement. That's another beautiful strategy that seems too obvious to work, but it just does. This is a forced encounter. these guys are going to shoot these computers and you need to stop them. So I'm going to put on my secondary function for the F2000. I'm going to screw up with the controls a little bit, and then we're going to try and hit these guys in the face with sticky shockers or ring airfoil rounds. So there you go. A perfect room just then is 2 ring airfoil rounds on each of those dudes' heads. But every time I hit the first guy with the ring airfoil, his buddy turned around. I don't know why. I just had difficulties with it, and of course I was on a pretty strict schedule for recording this.
Great work, Fisher.
But if you want to get, you know, maximum amount of equipment so that you've always got a good setup, I would afford yourself 2 ring airfoil rounds there, unless you want to use bullets, because bullets are expendable. You might be wondering why they are and the secondary features aren't. Well, the secondary features I actually use in this playthrough, the bullets I don't, so... Anybody wondering how to do the little roll I just did then? I don't recommend it too much other than trying to get an extra bit of distance on a sneaky piece of movement. I think you have to hold the crouch button, or you have to press whatever it is to crouch twice as you're moving in a crouch and he does a roll, or something of that. It's one of those things that my hands do, but I couldn't honestly tell you what they're doing, because I'm just ingrained to do it. It's that muscle memory. Once you have muscle memory for something, you pick it up, it's like riding a bike, isn't it? It's like stumbling on words when you're doing a commentary, which I just did a moment ago. It happens all the time. And when you listen to it back, you wonder how the hell you did it. But in that moment, commentary can be the most tongue-twisting thing you'll ever do. And all I can say is good luck to anybody who attempts it, because it's not as easy as you think it would be. But there's a bomb in this room, and we have a handful of seconds left to get rid of it. Luckily enough, defusing on this game is walk up to it and press a button. It wasn't quite in that ethos of, here's a stupid minigame that you can fail and instantly kill everybody, which I'm very grateful of. But we're incredibly exposed at this part, so I'm going to sneak up to this door. Doesn't look like anybody's here, and we're going to hit this next area, and I believe it's going to transition us into the next part of the level. Whenever you see a crossfade, or like that, where it just dims and then the next piece of footage starts, that means that I've trimmed out an entire sequence of loading. And on this game, it only does mid-level loads when you're in, shall we say, the next sequence of events. And each level generally has about 3 different sections to have those events in them. That right there, I don't know what it is. I think it might be a motion sensor. I thought it was one of those bombs. So I snuck up to it and I'm not even sure what happened. And because I'm still not sure what it is, I'm still being very tentative on these stairs. Of course, I think we're in a radius now where we can get away from moving a little bit quicker, but it just kind of looks like Sam has got a shit in his nappy, and he doesn't want it to rub against his legs, so he's tentatively stepping forward and praying for the nearest toilet. But a lot of chaos happening in this next room. A lot of dudes on this corridor. So this is a good example of the lighting. Do you see how there's this massive emphasis on this Venetian lighting? And I don't know much about Venetians, but I'm pretty sure Venetian blinds probably didn't come from there, because when you look into anything's origins, it's generally not what you'd think it would be. That guy's whistling the theme of Pandora Tomorrow, which you're going to see as a common element in this game. And right here, I'm waiting for him to pass me. And I'm just going to wait for it, and there's going to be a bit of a jump here. Because the autosave, coming out of the autosave, it lingers the game, and it does a little fade, and the fade, people are moving during it, so I couldn't get that to line up as well as the last game, which makes editing this a little bit trickier than the first part, which it saddens me a lot, because I really like having, you know, strong visuals in walkthroughs. I like having a level of fidelity. This is amazing, this room. If this is the take I think it is, I shot about 20 rounds at one of those lights and I missed every single one. So I'm shooting the lights out here so the cameras don't see me, but the dudes are going to run in here because they can hear the breaking glass, which is pretty cool. And look where he goes. This dude knows where I am. He straight up knows. Why would he do that? He just walks directly to where I am and then he turns around and then I clop him. This is it? Oh no, it's not. Suffice to say, the guns on this game are some of the most hilarious moments / rage-inducing sections, because they just don't work. For a professional having the highest echelon of technology, you think his guns would shoot where you point them.
Inside the client storage database.
It's brilliant, it truly is, and it's something that the series has moved away from, and I'm really glad. I would really like the next Splinter Cell to go back to being incredibly rigid stealth, but I realise that's quite an antiquated requirement and thought, but I can't help it. Ooh, that is a fantastic innovation. Did you see that? In the last game, to realise what the codes were for doors, you had to go into the menu. In this game, it puts it on the actual code menu, so you can just look at it and put it in. And for people like me, whose short-term memory is literally the worst, it is a beautiful addition. I'm trying to think if there's any new tech in this game that I have to explain, but I'm blanking on it. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy X, as you're now witnessing. I've also been playing a lot of a game called D4, which was free on games with gold for Xbox One, because I managed to borrow one of those for a little while. That right there is perfect. I turn a light off, the guard comes in, and I'm able to knock him out so that he doesn't interrupt any future interactions. A lot of this is kind of YOLO strategies, which, if you know me, I'm not the biggest fan of acronyms, and I don't really say that you only live once kind of thing. But caution and the wind are meeting in a lot of these strats, because I don't actually know where a lot of these guards affect. And as much as I could have tried to get around them, I chose to dispose of them, because that's the way I've been playing. And it's a really fun way to play too, and the luxury of it is if you're really in a Splinter Cell mood and you want to continue playing, your next progress through the game can be the complete opposite. And I like stuff like that because it gives you different ways to play it. And the remake, the high-definition remake of Resident Evil 1 that's available right now, it came out 5 days ago, and I really should pick it up because it's been such a long time since I've played it. That game has a bunch of achievements that task you with playing the game in really creative ways. One of them is knife only, and if you've ever used the knife on Resident Evil 1, it's a massive piece of shit. It just doesn't work. It's wonderfully bad, and I think it's awesome that they've incentivized that kind of run, because it's for the people who would do that anyway, and now they get to do it for a nice little reward, which is always interesting. And there's one where there's an invisible enemies mode, where all the bosses and all the enemies are completely invisible, which... that sounds crazy, man. You've got to really know that game to get through that. But in this room, I take out that first guy by the computer. This guy is on a set path. I'm going to wait for him to come back into this room. Once again, he's on it. If you know the patterns on these games, it's so empowering, because you know exactly what they're going to do. Ooh, that's something new. So... this game introduced the concept of having interactive distractions, and I didn't really know what this meant, but the game pops up a little like Q&A tab and explains it to you. So if I were to mess with that phone, he would come and investigate it. See how it's ringing? Well, I'm able to pick it up, and it leads me down a path of distractions like this. So he comes and checks it out, and I don't know how many of these there are in the game, but I think they're pretty damn fascinating, and I have no memory of them being a part of it at all, but I'm glad they are, because it puts you into these interesting scenarios where stuff is happening and you're not entirely sure if it's for the better, and I think that can be very tense, very nerve-wracking, but at the same time it can lead to some interesting strategies like that. I literally walked past that phone, and then the phone got that dude to come to me so I could knock him out. And the computer gives me the key. The key for the door is 7562. Once again, folks, if you can't get to that computer for whatever reason and you just want to get through that door, look up the codes. You can skip so much of this game by knowing what the codes are, and you can learn all of them with one push of the button on Google search.
If he's willing to
murder frozen organs.
But
you can't murder the dead.
More exposition here. Not too sure if I'm going to keep these moments in. I think for the first video I probably will, but for future ones I'll take them away. One thing you'll notice about my Splinter Cell videos is I try to keep them as compact as possible, but I like to keep them in one video. I only split the ones up that are incredibly long, and as far as this game is concerned, I think the average video is going to be about a 20-minute segment, so hopefully that's something that people can enjoy. And at this moment in time I have segments of all kinds done running on the channel. We have the Kingdom Hearts, which is anywhere between 20 minutes and 2 minutes. We have the Final Fantasy, which is a guaranteed 20 to 40 minutes depending on how long I ended up running on the game. And then we'll have this, which is going to be premiering tomorrow, which is awesome, because I've been really excited to share it, and a lot of people have showed interest. So, in the morgue, you'll notice there's our first turret. It's hidden in the glare of the dry ice, or the... I don't even know what you would call that kind of smoke. I guess I've never really thought about it. What I do find really interesting is how they can just carry on doing their daily thing with it being so thick. And obviously it's for dramatic effect, and morgues don't actually look like all the canisters are leaking the shit that's supposed to be inside them, but it makes it real difficult to see stuff, you know. You will not be able to see all that far in front of your hand. But here is the lock picking. I don't think it's changed since the previous game. There isn't really too much of it in this game. I'm not too sure if Chaos Theory is any different. You might be wondering when I'm going to be playing Chaos Theory. Well, at this moment in time, I have about 1 terabyte worth of footage that needs to go. And before I start recording more things, I need to finish things I have recorded. And I always finish what I start, or I at least try my hardest to. And there's only a couple of kind of novelty projects on the channel at this moment in time that are unfinished, and there's a pretty good reason for a lot of them. But I need to get their assets at least off my computer before I record anything new. That's the reason why I haven't covered Resident Evil. That's the reason why I haven't been covering a lot of the things that people have been asking for. Like, I do have the Xbox One, but my capture card doesn't record it, so it's awesome that I've been able to procure one from a friend, but I can't do anything with it, so that's the reason why you haven't seen anything, because I have to get a special cable or buy a new capture device, and buying a new capture device is kind of expensive, so I've opted for the cable. But when that does arrive, I'll probably be covering the stuff that my buddy has, which is namely Sunset Overdrive, because it's a really fun game. I will be removing all the storyline off it though, and just doing the main missions, because a lot of the humour just falls so flat, it's pretty rough. But this is a tricky section. I didn't immediately know how to do this. So there's two possible outcomes to this sequence. You can either leave this guy behind, or you can rescue him from these dudes. Either way, it's going to involve escaping via this air vent.
I'm just doing my job.
So here is the scientist guy. This is me trying to drop and accidentally climbing up. You'll see that quite a lot. It does happen. And once you talk to him, it's going to trigger a timer after Sam's finished with his little inquisition to interrogate the dude.
I'm from the phone company.
And I wasn't entirely sure how I was meant to do this, because it had been too long. I tried getting out of the vent, I tried going the other way, but that finished the level. I tried waiting for them to enter the room, and that's almost an immediate fail state. I tried a ton of stuff. And in the end, it turns out the strategy is quite simple. You just have to shoot a valve on a wall. It's on a pipe, actually, and you can see it from the vent, but it was just something I never thought to do. And it took me about 20 minutes of being in this room to figure it out. I retried about 3 or 4 times, and then when I finally did that, I'm like, let's just try shooting some stuff. It lined up perfectly, and it was a really fun sequence. And the joys of a walkthrough is you don't get to see that. You get to see the correct run, where it looks like I know what I'm doing all the time, which is never the case, folks.
Is there any way out of here besides the door?
And if you want to see a good example of that, if that sounds like something that's appealing, just check out any of the playthroughs that I've done. I haven't done as many as I have done walkthroughs, but each of them is pretty extensive, and it's filled with moments where I don't know what I'm doing, which is a nice juxtaposition to the illusion of constantly being informed. But this is the end of the conversation, and you're going to see the timer does a funny thing here, because I was linking the footage. This is the first time I entered the room, and when I climb up into the vent, it's going to link to the footage of me knowing what I'm doing, and there was a 20-minute differential, which I didn't want to leave in, so we climb up, and the transition was there. So pull your gun out, move across, and then shoot that. That will then cause them all to walk into it, it will then knock them out, and then we can leave, and that dude doesn't die. All you have to do to leave is to move this way, and you're going to drop out of the air vent into an open area where there's a door and there's the escape van. So there you go, folks. Walk forward and let's get the hell out of Dodge. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the walkthrough. I hope it's helping, and as always, you take care now.